Well, let's just run through a couple things, and I have a couple questions written down here because Mark, you've I've got the pleasure of being able to see behind the scenes, being the CloudPano founder, right, of all the tours you're making, and I like
Uh-huh.
and I want to know, just for our users, first off, what area are you shooting, and who's your primary customer, and then what camera are you using? We'll start there, and then we'll go into post-processing and pricing and your story.
Oh,
So,
yeah. Okay. Well, first of all, my marketplace, the ones I target are residential realtors here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And I don't just limit it to residential real estate, but also commercial real estate. Sometimes there'll be some commercial property that they need remote inspection, for example, but they can't have somebody local to go and check out a property. Well, I can provide them a 360 view, very easily, and that's been very helpful as well. Another segment, which I think is very, very good, is vacation rentals. Cabin properties and such. Again, somebody's got several properties they're considering for a vacation, and they can do a much more thorough walkthrough with this. So that's my primary target audience. As far as the equipment I'm using, I got the Insta360 as recommended. I think that's what CloudPano recommended to get, and I checked it out, and I tell you, I'm very impressed with it. So the point of reference, Matterport was like $3,000, $4,000 to get them started with their special camera. For $410, I was up and running with the Insta360.
cool.
So very, very impressed with that. It has video capability as well, which is nice, but I don't use it necessarily for this technology. It's just a fun toy to play with, I gotta admit. I took it to Savannah. My wife and I, we went around through all the parks and stuff and just had a blast with it. What I find, let's see.
Well, tell me this, Mark. When you shoot a house with that Insta360 1X, how long does it take you?
It takes me, for a typical house being around 2,500 square feet, I would say 20 minutes, 20 to 30 minutes. Okay. The challenges with the house have to do with letting everybody know we're coming through and we're going to see everything in every direction. So if there's other people in the house, if there's something, that we want to move that we don't want to be visible in the shot, then we've got to do a little, shuffling around. But even with all that, I'll walk through and do still photography, HDR, with my DSLR, and it will take me typically an hour to an hour and a half, depending on how cluttered the house is. So for me to go in a third of the time, I'd say, hey, I've got this 360 camera I also want to do. It'll take another 15, 20 minutes and literally knock it out. Yeah, they love it. Oh, I don't know what I was going to tell you about the Insta360. I was thrilled to find out it had an HDR mode in it, which means it brackets. It'll do 3 exposures of different exposure settings with one click. Then I can go back, because I love to do this. I love to post-process, and I can put my own spin, my own processing on the files that they generate. And then I've got something I think is a superior quality than what just comes out of camera. So that was a big selling point for me. I would love it if they would do 5, frankly, but I'll take the 3.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. So tell me about that. What's your process look like when you post-process with these photos?
So my normal process is to dump out raw files, shoot everything raw in my DSLR, and then run through a program like a Nik software or Photomatics or even Lightroom. You could use an HDR processor where you take multiple exposures and combine them into one. So I do that and then run through Lightroom and do some cleanup. If I've got to do something in Photoshop, like remove myself from a mirror, then I'll do that as well. Again, that's something else you can do with this flow that you cannot do in Matterport. Is I have access to the actual photos, so I can go in and edit them myself. So that's amazing, because with Matterport, you pretty much just you upload it and you get what you get. And I can color correct. I can do all kinds of things. It's wonderful. So yeah, that's it. The profile of the camera itself is very small. Fact is, everybody's shocked when they see how small it's literally the size of my tripod. Just like a little ball head on top of it. I can swap off my big camera off of my tripod, use the same tripod, same setting, and just walk through the house,
Oh, cool.
and I'm done. Yeah. So really nice, really nice. And just having the preview of my phone right there, I can show the customer, that's with me, demonstrate this is your house right now that we're looking at, and isn't this cool how you can spin around, and yeah, it knocks their socks off.
Cool. That's awesome. So knocks their socks off. So you're telling me a story earlier about how you showed this to a realtor. What was her first response?
Oh, she was, first of all, trying to understand, okay, what are you talking about, this virtual tour? I said, here, let me just show you. And I brought up my cell phone in just a matter of seconds, and I turned to an email I'd received from CloudPano the day before. And in just like 2 seconds, I had it up and running, and she could see for herself with my phone exactly what that previous house looked like by just turning from side to side. And she's like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. This nobody else has this. And that's a selling point too with the realtors. These are selling agents. They're the ones who are competing with other realtors to get listings. And so they need to demonstrate to their clients what they can provide as far as value. And so they can do the same demo that I just did, right? And say, hey, look, here's what we did on our last listing, and this is what we'll do for you. And it helps close their sale as well.
That makes sense. So if I'm a luxury homeowner and I want to sell my home for $1.5 million, and I have 3 people pitch me that are realtors, and one of them happens to know Mark McKinney, then they're going to have the 360 tour to show off, and
that's right.
Yeah, probably hopefully over impress with what they can do technology wise, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. That's the vision.
There's a couple of things to worry about, not really worry, but to consider whenever you're deciding, because not every house is it appropriate to use the 360. It really isn't, because some houses, we spend most of our time shooting around or away from certain things, right? I mean, it's just so cluttered. People live their lives differently, and you're like, okay, really, I come in with my camera and I shoot from certain angles, and you just don't have to see the rest. But there are those cases, luxury homes especially is typical. You walk in and it's like everything is pristine, and you want to show off everything. And it's perfect in those situations. So you're adding a lot more value. You're coming in and really helping that realtor to do their job as well. And so that helps me to sell my product. Okay, so pricing-wise, if I go in with a Matterport, which is what I've done for many years, it's expensive for me to run Matterport, to have the subscription every year, to have the hosting costs, the processing costs, and all the overhead, plus the camera I'm eventually got to pay for. So I was running 10 cents a square foot. I mean, literally have to go in and say, you have a 3,000 square foot house, it's going to be $300 for me to do my Matterport scan for you. And frankly, I was getting a lot of pushback, especially in the local area here. They just don't want to spend that much money on that. And so sales had really dropped off. It's like I just couldn't justify it anymore. With this, I come in and I say, for like 50% of my normal shoot rate, I can say for an additional 50%, I can, in only another 15, 20 minutes, I can add this tour to the package as well. And that's much more palatable. By the way, that's the same offer I have whenever I come in and I say, would you like drone footage?
Sure.
I want some shots, from overhead, do some aerials. I'll do the same thing. I'll say 50% more, and I will put a drone in the air. Well, it's not always appropriate to do a drone in the city.
Sure.
But in those situations, I can say, but I can do this 360 tour. And all of a sudden, hey, I'm back in the game, with that additional 50%.
That's cool. So you're increasing your transaction value per customer, and you always have that upsell available, and it actually does add great value to your users in multiple ways. Okay, cool.
So that same realtor that I was impressing before, she got the results back, and I'm like, hey, I really would appreciate any feedback from you, because just, how is this going for you? And she just said, wow, it is a fantastic way to walk through the home and get a feel for how it flows. Yeah. The only feedback that was kind of critical was she said, I feel like you set the camera a little too high because I saw a lot of ceiling. Yeah. And that was incredibly, good for me to hear because
Yeah.
I'm a 6-foot man and, she's a bit shorter. And I'm like, okay, so that tells me I can go ahead and set it lower and don't have to worry about it. So
That
great
makes sense.
feedback.
I've noticed that too. If you set the camera too low, like on a desk, you may think, oh, this is so cool. It's going to show everything. And it kind of shows a lot of desk, right? If you show it too
Right.
high, same thing, a lot of ceiling.
It blocks, right?
Yeah.
But if you go too high, in the kitchen, I want to see the countertops. So
Yeah.
I will raise it a little higher. And I'm always kind of making sure I'm not being blocked by tall furniture or something like that. But I also, especially on low ceiling homes, you want to go ahead and keep it down fairly low.
That makes sense. That's a good point. I've noticed that too, that if you try to stay consistent with the height, it creates a pretty good flow when the users look at the house later on from the software itself, from CloudPano's viewer. It just makes, they know what to expect, not changing levels. It can create that kind of like human walkthrough experience. That's cool. Have you ever tried a VR headset yet with the when you pitch?
Not yet. And I'm kind of curious about that. I actually sat down with a list today, and that's on my shopping list. I want to do a purchase, and I just was talking to my kids about what was recommended, and I was wondering if you had any suggestions. Here's my thought process. I don't think an overly expensive VR headset makes sense because most of my clients won't have that. Sure. But I do want something that's accessible to them and something I can recommend.
Yeah, so I've used a bunch of different ones, and I've been disappointed most of the time. But one of them that I really like, it's called the VR1, and it's been around for a while. And it just has a really a good depth, and it's good for my iPhone. So depending on which phone you have, definitely will dictate what headset you should use. But what's cool about CloudPano is, right, when you tap one time in your VR headset mode, you just slide it in there, and then once you hand it over to your client, they put it on, they spin around in their chair, and they use that dot in the center of the viewer, which only appears in VR headset mode. And you say, hey, put that dot on a hotspot, and it'll take them to that room. And quickly they get it, they're traveling through the space. I always call it, they're always smiling and laughing whenever they see something like that. I really just call it kind of a gimmick. It's a fun way to show off real estate marketing because most folks don't walk around with VR headsets. We recognize that. But if you're going to talk about empowering your clients and really helping you be the valuable resource, then say, hey, you should buy this VR headset and go to your next $2.5 million listing, and I almost promise you're going to win it. That's a cool thing that you can provide, and they're going to want to use you, of course, because you help them, even get to that point, right?
Exactly. Yeah, as a photographer, you want to be a team player with a realtor, and so I have several that their whole office just calls me, and they know to call me every time because of the products I can deliver. Because they go to sit with their potential clients, and they'll go to my website and say, "Here's the photos that Mark has done for us, and we're going to provide that same quality to you." Now, on my website, I'm going to have 360 tour, and they can click on that as well and be able to demonstrate that. So, yeah, I think that's definitely a strong point.
So I had a question about, you said you charge 50% of your typical real estate photos. So how many, now that you've kind of seen the response with showing off Pano and showing the 360 tours and making that a part of your suite of products, right? What is the last time we spoke, you had a really clear percentage of users that asked for 360 tours. So how many would you say now ask for this service whenever you're either on location or just in general? Percentage of homes shot, how many would you say probably are a good candidate or are asking for this type of service for 360 tours?
Good question. And a lot of it is going to depend on our previous conversation about getting the link out there on the local MLS sites. Sure. I've got to be able to show that if you put that investment with me, you're going to see value on the local sites. Yeah. So assuming that happens, we get that all worked out. Then the next deciding factor is how many homes would you consider that I shoot? Would you consider where they're comfortable showing everything in the room? Sure. In all directions. That also limits it down, right? Because and so I'm going to say roughly 30-40% of what I do I should be able to upsell.
Okay, cool. So,
and I don't know if you think that's low or high, but I think that's pretty realistic right now. Until I get to where I'm doing more luxury homes as a higher percentage, I think that's probably more realistic.
that makes sense. And then hopefully, as with that service, more luxury homes give you a higher percentage as well, because that just makes clear sense if you have a luxury home to add more marketing,
Absolutely. And maybe word of mouth is going to be that way, where it's like, hey, who are you getting to do those 360 shots? One realtor talking to another.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, sometimes I'm a closely guarded secret.
Sure.
And sometimes they're free with, recommending me. I'm hoping they'll be free and recommend me.
Sure.
So anyway, I can see that it's going. There is a ton. There's so many luxury homes in the Dallas area that are right for this, and it's just a matter of it catching fire. So even looking at my personal portfolio, looking at probably 30-40%, being able to upsell. That's my goal. Drones were my thing last year. I could start upselling drones, especially in the rural kind of communities.
Mm-hmm.
But I was like, I can't really do that in town. Occasionally I get somebody ask for a drone shot in the city, but usually not. This is my in, I think, for those clients. So
that's great. That's good feedback too. Yeah, that makes sense.
And I use the 50% as a general rule of thumb, by the way, too. As an example, the lady we've been talking about, I happen to charge her $150. That's my standard fee for her for a normal photo shoot. And so I said, for another 100, I'll add this VR, this 360. And she said, great, sign me up.
Awesome.
So that's a little more than 50%.
That's true. That's great. Well, gosh, we could even calculate some quick math. So how many invoices do you think you sent out a year, Mark? What would you, if you had to guess? What was last year?
Over 400 last year.
Over 400. So 30%, I'm just going to be conservative, throw out a number, let's say $100 a tour. And of course, there's going to be, I'm sure, plenty of clients who are bigger homes, or maybe even a newer client. They charge $125 or $150 for this kind of tour, a bigger house. But let's say the $100 a tour, and it's 30% of that 400 is 100, 120 maybe listings. So you're looking at, let's say it's $100, at least $12,000 maybe even added to your bottom line. Hopefully 15, maybe more than that, maybe even 20 with CloudPano. That'd be great.
Right. And that's assuming that my business stays static, where it was last year, and I assume it's going to grow. So I've added 2 more photographers to the team, and we're expanding. So. Yeah. And that's the other thing is, if you have someone working a house with you, which, have an assistant who goes through and helps me make sure things stage properly. And then as I start shooting the room with my camera, they're going through behind me. And so I'm really it's not costing me any extra time if I do it right.
Cool.
Right. By the time I'm done, they're done, and we go home. That's
perfect. So you spend 15 extra minutes and really maybe even 0 extra minutes, and you add $12,000 to $20,000 to your bottom line. That's great. Yeah. That's the goal. That's at the end of the day, we got to justify, the means, right? What we're doing. It's not just about the cool technology. It's about really, truly, helping change lives and for the better. And that's what CloudPano is empowering your business to do. And hopefully maybe expand to other cities, or even expand this in general, because you have more revenue coming in per client. And you can do, like you said, you kind of have that network effect of who's shooting 360, who is that guy?
Mm-hmm. That's right.
So that's really cool.
And it's not just for realtors, so don't forget that. I mentioned earlier, inspections is another area that I'm trying to get into more and more, and I've had some traction there as well already, really? where I go in and they say, measure things for us, and then take some quick snaps, just so we have an idea of what the place looks like. And I'm like, okay, I can do better than that. I can go through and, 3-4 well-placed 360 shots. You got the entire place, and it's saving me time as an inspector and giving them a lot more information. So it's another area in the market to look for.
Yeah, how do you break into an inspector's office? What's a typical process for something like that?
That's a great question. They actually found me. It was some companies that are remote, like California or East Coast, and they always have something going on, some construction, in your area, and they reach out to local real estate photographers because they know that, we're probably interested in that kind of work. We definitely have a camera.
Sure.
And so they reached out to me. I've had 2 or 3 different companies reach out.
Oh, great.
They're the same company who might call me and say, can you do some drone shots? Because we're thinking about building a Walmart or something,
Cool. Okay. That's great. Yeah, I didn't even really think about that too much, but now there's just so many applications for it, and
Yeah,
that just only makes you better as a service provider, right? That's cool.
exactly.
Excellent. Well, do you have any like tips or maybe tricks or just in general business advice for other photographers out there who want to add this to their business and what to look out for and what could possibly help them? Just summarize all that. What do you think?
That's a good question. So think about as you're a photographer, what you're providing as far as value. My job is as there's so many people shopping for houses online, they're just scrolling through the photos, right? That's the main way people shop. And your job as a photographer is to catch their eye and get them hooked into looking closer at that property and contacting your client. So that's why I use the really nice HDR processing for my still photos. That's one hook. The next hook is to actually help them get a feel for the property. If I'm somebody in California and I've got a whole bunch of money and I want to spend it in Dallas, but I don't have time to go, catch a flight and go visit a lot of houses, how much easier is it for me just to look at these 360 views and literally walk through a house? So I think there's a huge value there. So with very little extra capital investment, I mean, if you've got a good rig, a good kit set up, you're spending $3,000-$4,000 minimum. For an extra $500 or so, you've got incredibly powerful technology to add to your arsenal. And so I guess that would be it, is don't discount it. It seemed like a really good play, and I'm excited about what happens. I know that whenever my customers that I've shown this so far have been very excited about it. And when they're excited, I mean, that means I want to make some more money.
Yeah,
so,
that's a good point.
So that's good.
Cool. Well, thank you so much, Mark. I appreciate your time today.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and if anyone's ever in Dallas-Fort Worth area and needs some photography done, reach out to Mark McKinney at riveroakmedia.com. That's the right website, right, Mark?
That's it. I'll get you to me.
All right. Well, I'll stay in touch with you, man. And I obviously thanks for your time, and I'll follow up soon. Okay.
All right. Thanks, Zach.
Thank you, Mark. Have a good day, bud.
All right. Bye-bye.
Hey there, thank you so much for watching this interview. I hope it was helpful to you in reaching your business goals. CloudPano.com is partnering with business owners to help them create amazing 360 virtual tours on our platform. And I want you to be a Pro Plus member here at CloudPano.com. As a Pro Plus member, you can private label our software, putting your domain name at the forefront while making the creation, hosting, and displaying of 3D tours in virtual reality simple. Let us handle all the software, and you go make the money as a service provider in your area. Also, too, people who are Pro Plus members get added to our VR directory. So if you click below this video, you'll get taken to a page just like this, and you'll see all the features and benefits that you'll be added into if you are a Pro Plus member, including our VR directory, which is if someone searches in your area for a virtual reality or virtual tour provider, plus a certain area that you are dedicated to on our directory, your name pops up and you get more leads coming your way. It's this kind of additions and services and the way we have crafted and built this software to make sure you as a business owner succeed at the highest level you possibly can. So when you visit this Pro Plus page here at CloudPano.com, it lays out all the details of a Pro Plus membership. And if you pay annually, you save on your annual cost for your tour hosting. Click Get Started, go on to the next page and finish your checkout. Log in with your account and sign up and pay right now. Thanks again for checking out CloudPano.com. I'll see you on the other side.